right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this week's episode of the Roundtable. I'm your host, Mad Mike, and this week, as my special guest, we have the one and the only Chris Keith.
Mike, how are you, buddy?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm good. You know, getting a little stir crazy and all right now, but other than that, man, I'm great.
Yeah, you know, it's the crazy world we live in, but I'll tell you what, man, I really do appreciate you coming on the show this week. And what I'd like to do real quick is just give a couple of updates, and then we're going to dive right into this. And I hope you're ready, because the Refs Roundtable has broken many men.
All right, I think I'm ready. Can't be any worse than your golf game.
Okay. All right, here we go. I'm really regretting this already. So, a couple of updates. Everybody, thank you to everybody that listens to the show. Really appreciate everybody's support. We're part of the Wrestling with the Future family of podcasts, and the last numbers that I heard were that over 600,000 downloads of our podcasts have been shared across the world. So this is great. And, you know, our podcast is a small part of that, but one that we really do appreciate everybody listening to. So keep your emails and comments coming in, and let us know what you like, what you don't like. And well, actually, forget about what you don't like, and just tell us what you want to see more of. Okay? We're not going anywhere. I know that our schedule has been a little bit off, but we are going to have one episode a week, and the dates of the release of the podcast, at least right now, are kind of fluctuating. So just bear with us for the time being. We are obviously recording this episode, which is for the week of wrestling ending on the March 28th. And then we are going to record an episode on Thursday, which will be April 2nd. And that's a very special episode. As the road to WrestleMania continues, we're going to do our Pick'em show. It's going to be a lot of fun. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. But for those of you that were listening to the most recent podcast, you know that Levi McDaniel has been a part of the podcast, and he still will be, but he just couldn't be here today. So we're gonna go ahead and forge on without him today, but he has some really big news that he's going to be really excited to share with everybody next week. So get ready, okay? So you know, that being said, I'm Mike Kelleher. For those of you who are new to the podcast, I'm just a fan of wrestling. I've been a lifelong fan. I'm not a wrestler. I am not somebody who reads spoilers or dirt sheets or any of that stuff. I just go along for the ride, but that doesn't mean I can't have some fun on the way. So that's me. Chris Keith over here, my buddy Chris Keith. He is somebody we're going to dive into in great detail. Chris is the owner of UEW Wrestling, Ultimate Elite Wrestling. That's a promotion in the greater Richmond or Mechanicsville area.
United Elite Wrestling.
I'm sorry?
United Elite Wrestling.
Oh, I'm sorry. What did I say?
You said, I'm not sure what you said. I think Ultimate, maybe?
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Let me correct myself. Actually, after you corrected me. Chris is the owner of United Elite Wrestling.
There we go.
EW. Excuse me. So it's a promotion based out of the greater Richmond, Mechanicsville area. And we're gonna learn a lot about the promotion tonight, but a lot of good stuff going on down there, and I know some of you will really dig this. So, Chris, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you for having me, man. It's my pleasure.
Now, for those of you that don't know, okay, Chris and I have actually known each other for a long, long time. I thought about this the other day, Chris. I don't know if you realize this, but we're pushing 20 years almost.
I did the exact same thing, and I was like, oh, my God, really? It's been that long?
Yeah. So just to kind of, give you the listeners a little bit of history between us, Chris and I were both in the golf industry, okay? Assistant professionals. and working at different courses in the Richmond area. And then Chris, he gave me some slack at the beginning of the show, but no doubt Chris was by and large a much better golfer than I ever will be. So we had a lot of connections and would run into each other. And then he was involved with a retail shop over in Midlothian, and I used to pop in there after work or on my lunch break and go hang out with him, and had a lot of fun. So, Chris, that was kind of like the last time I saw you was probably about like, I don't know, 2000. I mean, maybe not the last time I saw you, but the last time I saw you in the golf setting was probably about like 2010?
I left it completely in 2013.
Okay. Oh, that's right.
Completely in 2013.
You left the retail gig and went down to Piankatank?
Yeah. I went down there and was the head professional there for a couple years, and then was driving an hour and a half back and forth.
Yeah.
As you know, when you open a golf course, you got to open that thing real early.
Yeah, it's one thing to be getting those carts out when you have a 20-minute drive. It's another thing to be getting those carts out with an hour and a half. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so unloading, getting on the road at 4 a.m. was not fun. Mm-mm.
Yeah, and if you had an event the day before, like maybe a member guest, you might have been there till 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night.
I would usually just stay down there. There were plenty of hotels. I would usually just stay down there for that stuff.
See, so there you go. So Chris was in the golf industry. I was in the golf industry, and then what did you do after you left the golf industry?
Got into the industry that I'm still in. Became a personal training director.
Yes, actually, I did know that.
Yeah, so I actually, what most people don't really know is, I'm going to date myself a little bit. I had my first PT certification back in like 98, 99.
Okay.
And so then moved to Richmond in 01 and did that for a little bit, and then, did the golf thing, turned pro, did the golf thing for 10 years, give or take. But knew that whatever I did outside of golf, when it was time to get away, had to be athletic, it had to be sport oriented, it had to be competitive, or it wasn't going to hold my attention. So, got back into the personal training side, and I've been doing that ever since.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about this a little bit, but through the years, like I would see and hear little things that let me know that you were pretty heavily entrenched in the wrestling business with your personal training.
Yeah.
So we're going to get to that in just a second. But, just to give you an idea, Chris, because I know this is your first time on the Roundtable, what we're going to do is go through the week's news and events. So we're going to talk about, as far as WWE is concerned, we're going to talk about Raw, SmackDown, and, of course, WrestleMania. And then we're going to talk about AEW, and then talk about some other stuff. So before we get into that, I do want to, let's see, I'm trying to get my notes to scroll here. There we go. So I do want to talk to you for just a second. So you have UEW now.
Right.
So that's obviously where you're at now. Back in the day, you were doing a lot of personal training, and did you own a gym, or were you part owner in a gym, or did I understand that wrong?
No, may have understood that wrong. No, since I've gotten back into it was always with Goals. Within the same franchise, the one out in Mechanicsville, Laburnum, down in Willow Lawn is where I'm at now.
Okay.
But no, been there since leaving the golf industry.
Oh, okay. All right. So I alluded to this earlier, but one of the things that I would hear and see is how you were connecting with wrestlers through your personal training. And I'll never forget the image that was just jaw-dropping and emblazoned into my brain from, I don't even know how long ago it was, probably like 5 years ago or so. But I believe you were training the New Day.
Yeah, they actually popped in. It was what was that? It was 4 years ago, out in Mechanicsville, and it was on a Saturday. They had a house show. WWE had a house show in town that night.
Yeah.
And we were getting ready to pack it in for the day because me and my buddy Jason, who was in that picture with all of us, we're going to the show that night.
Yeah.
And so I was like, all right, come on, dude, let's get out of here. It's time to go. We got a show to get ready for. It was like,
what time was this roughly?
Huh?
What time was this roughly?
Around 1 o'clock, give or take.
Okay.
On a
So you were
Saturday.
thinking, go home, get cleaned up, get something to eat, and then
Head
go
downtown.
Okay.
Yeah. So I stood up from my desk and I looked out the window and I saw this white, clearly a rental car pull up with these 3 guys in it.
Yeah.
And so I looked because it was a real slow day. There was nothing going on. And then all of a sudden, Kofi, Xavier, and Big E all pop out. And I'm like, oh, hey. And I start smacking my buddy. I was like, New Day just got here. And so we end up having this entire conversation. They go to the locker room, they get clothes, they get changed. We all end up over in the weight room together. And I tell this story because this was the day I think that I figured out that Big E Langston is one of the strongest human beings I've ever seen in my life.
He definitely looks the part.
Oh, well, wait till you hear this. He's on his cell phone just about the whole time. He goes to the flat bench, an incline bench, and a decline bench. And he puts 315 on all 3.
Uh-huh.
So he talks on his phone, and whoever's talking to him, he says, all right, hang on 1 second. And he reps out like 20 on the flat. So he stands up and gets back on the phone like nothing ever happened.
He's holding his phone.
Yeah. So as he's talking, he makes his way over to the incline.
Yeah.
He's like, all right, hang on, I got to get another set. So he does 315 there, and then it continued. He just went in this circle for probably, I don't know, 6 or 7 rounds. It could have been more, could have been a couple less.
20 reps.
But I don't think he ever broke a sweat. And so, we're all kind of leaving him alone doing his thing. We're over with Kofi and Xavier.
Mm-hmm.
And
what are they doing?
Kofi was doing just some light dumbbell work for his chest. Kofi's always had kind of a chest. And so he was doing some dumbbell work, and Xavier was over on a Smith machine working on some legs.
Okay.
And but Big E comes walking by. We're like, hey, man, you need a spot? And he's like, I think I got it. I can handle it. But it was the craziest thing. I mean, it's 315 on, and I'm talking, when I say he's repping it out, I'm talking like 20 reps every single time. So just like you or I would do with 135 pounds, he's doing this with 315, and I swear to this day, I still don't know if he ever broke a sweat.
So he did 20 reps every stop, and he did 3 stops. That's 60 each lap, each cycle.
Yep.
So he probably did like 400 plus reps.
Every bit of it.
Oh my!
I mean, it was crazy. I've had a chance. If we're talking WWE guys, I've worked out with The Miz.
Yeah, how was that?
This was probably in his. You remember where Miz had kind of a downturn? He just didn't really look very fit, and stories weren't really going anywhere, and he wasn't doing a whole lot.
Yeah.
Well, he came into the gym with he actually came in with Justin Roberts, the announcer. Okay. And, we ended up working out together, and it was very underwhelming workout.
Really?
But again, this is roughly the same time frame, honestly. Yeah. Roughly same time period. He just did, it was kind of like kind of workout. But the one that really, I don't want to say was weird for me, but wasn't the workout I thought I was going to get. It was more very, very much so flexibility, maintenance, stretching, was Eric Rowan.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, right. See? Yeah. So if you go to my personal Facebook page, there's a picture of us after that workout together. Mm-hmm. And it was very much so. I don't recall picking up any weight. It was all body weight type stuff. It was a lot of stretching. And then, like I said, he's probably one of the nicest guys that I've had the chance to do that with.
Really?
Yeah. New Day was awesome, but he was just genuinely a nice guy.
So what do you think? Do you think they just Googled like gym in the area, or like was it just luck that they walked in, or did they find out about there was good trainers at your gym, or?
No, WWE, I don't know if they still do, but for a lot of years, because there's so many gyms and things around now. A lot of years they had a deal with Gold's Gym to where when they were in any area, whatever Gold's Gyms are there, they get to use it on the house, kind of thing.
Hey, that works.
Yeah, because I can remember stories, the Gold's Gym on Broad Street over where the Peking and the theater are.
Mm-hmm.
That's not part of our franchise, but that used to be the one that Kane would go to every time he was here.
I would pay money to see Kane.
I was like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, yes, I am still a fan. And I still love to run into these guys. I like running into the guys when it's just kind of a spontaneous type thing.
Yeah.
Because they're relaxed. They're kind of in their personal zone there. And it's cool to just be able to sit and talk with a lot of these guys.
Okay. Well, was there any, before we transition to something else, was there any experience that you had working with these wrestlers, whether it was WWE or any of the other promotions that might have come through, where like you might have taught them something or given them some feedback that ended up really enlightening them?
Yeah, I would honestly say, the day with Rowan sticks out most in my mind because we were together for a while. Just really more about flexibility and stretch because he is. TV doesn't do it justice. This man is huge, and like I said, I'm not a little guy. I'm 6'2", 245 pounds.
Yeah.
But if you look, like I said, if you look at that picture of us standing next to each other, I don't look like that.
Well, I think he's like, what is he, like 6'8", 6'9"?
Yeah, he's like 6'8", and I think back then he was going around 330.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And he's not.
As a joke, though, what was cool was who he was traveling with. I didn't see this guy lift anything. It was Heath Slater. It was the night, if you remember, it was the night or the day after either a Raw or a pay-per-view. I don't remember specifically what. Do you remember when he got his face busted up and right across his nose? So there's a picture of me and Heath Slater, and he's got this huge hole in the top of his nose. But yeah, he was there. He was there. I don't recall seeing him actually do anything.
Well, I would imagine. I mean, who knows? Maybe he broke his nose, or
I don't know.
Stitches or something. Maybe he just didn't want to.
No, there were no stitches. I mean, it was a shot. Like I said, I just don't remember what show it was after. And again, this is probably 2016-ish, 17, give or take. But I thought it was cool that of all the people he's riding with Rowan.
Yeah, that is that's really interesting. I'll say that.
Yeah.
Well,
so yeah, I mean, there's been a ton of those guys that come in and out, and some you can just tell want to come in, do whatever they got to do, and go.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember Del Rio came in, and he was not personable at all.
I've heard that before.
Yeah, no, he was not, and I'm not trying to bash the guy. He really just wanted to come in, do his thing, and get out. Like I watched him walk in, and then do his thing and leave. And then RVD showed up with a mullet and jorts and a tie-dye shirt.
Oh my gosh! Thanks, RVD. That's a great look.
It was.
Well, but safe to say, was this out in Mechanicsville?
No, this was actually, the RVD one was in Laburnum.
Oh, okay. Well, it's still the East End.
Not far from the airport, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few mullets running around there still to this day. So
I'm sure. Well, the mullet's making a comeback, man.
Well, Tiger King is really helping that. So I don't know if you've seen that.
Unfortunate.
I'm going down that rabbit hole right now. Well, so Chris, let's kind of transition here just for a second. So we talked a little bit about our history. We talked about your background in golf and physical training, and let's talk more about what it's like with a promotion. Like, I know you didn't just wake up one day and say, I'm going to start a promotion. Tell me about this process, this journey.
I mean, It's been something, wrestling and being in the wrestling business has been something that I think if you are a young wrestling fan from the time you're a kid on up, these are things that you dream about doing. These are things that you believe in, and it doesn't matter what aspect of the business it is that you get into. Podcasting, it could be, owning a promotion. It could even be getting in the ring.
Yeah.
So, during the end of the golf stretch that we talked about in 2011, I actually got in the ring and was training. Yeah, I was actually training through GXW, which was a local promotion here in Richmond.
Okay.
And, if you remember the golf industry back then, times were tight. Things weren't necessarily great financially. And so, I'll pat myself on the back a little bit. I felt like what I was learning and what I was doing in the ring, I had a chance to be pretty good. And, but, at that time, being a single dad with 2 young kids, I had to make a decision. I had to really buckle down and focus on the golf career, or, forego putting food on the table and figure it out. Yeah. So I felt like, and I always felt this way, I felt like I had to leave something that I loved, that I potentially could have been really good at before I ever had a chance to show people if I was any good. And so, almost a year ago, some friends and I launched our podcast. We launched the Through the Curtain podcast. And what we would do is we were traveling to indie shows, local indie shows.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, anywhere from North Carolina to Delaware to West Virginia to Virginia.
Oh, my gosh.
And so if we saw a show that we wanted to go to, and we were able to set up with those shows, we were actually going our podcast live during their show.
Oh, wow.
And so when we did we were able to talk with a lot of men and women who are and really learn what they were all about, learn how they like to work, learn what their do's and their don'ts are. Mm-hmm. And time to launch UEW, I was able to really have an idea of who I kind of wanted to work with and who I wanted to build my company around.
Okay.
And so a lot of our core group for you are those guys. So.
Hey, Chris.
Hey, I think we should do this.
Hey, Chris, hang on one second, man. We might have to backtrack a little bit because the video is like freezing up on your end. Is it freezing up on my end?
Yeah, you're freezing up right now.
Yeah. Okay, let's.
Now.
All right, go ahead and just kind of go back and tell some of that story again.
Just the podcast.
Yeah, just go back a minute and catch us up.
Yeah, well, basically, what we did with the podcast was travel to indie promotions from Carolina to Delaware, West Virginia. And through the podcast, what we were able to do were meet a lot of independent wrestlers. Why they do it, what they do like, what they don't like. And so through that, when it came time to which honestly, it's funny the way you said it probably just didn't pop up overnight, really was a conversation during a panel. Really pushing me and saying, you know what, do it. Just do it. And so then it was come up with a name. What did we want the name to be? And so I came up with United Elite Wrestling because ultimately what our goal is to do is to unite the elite of independent wrestling under one umbrella. So that's how we got the name, and that's what the name came from, and that's why we have it. And that's we launched everything on social media on May 23rd, and built toward our first show, which was Got Your Six here in Richmond, Virginia, on November 9th. And what was really cool about that was we sold it out.
Awesome.
So yeah, so that was cool. So then the ball just kind of kept rolling, you know. I like to know what I like, and I think that's a lost art in a lot of independent promotion. And it really just all depends on what you're going for.
Mm-hmm.
But I like storylines. I like being able to story. So we run shows every couple months. We're not an every month promotion.
Right.
But that gives us time for some build up, and then by the time the show gets there, everybody knows what's going on. Everybody's excited to see it because in really less than a year still, we've built a really great fan base. I can't say enough about the fan base that we got, the support that we get from these people. Our performers are amazing, and so far, they've absolutely killed it, and I couldn't ask for more. The show on February was another sellout, but it was a huge standing room only sellout.
Awesome.
So, like I said, my goal is to just keep doing what we're doing. Obviously, it sucks that we've had to cancel the April 25th show now. But I think with everything going on, I think we all saw that. So our next show is going to be on July.
The video cut out, the audio cut out there. What's the date of your next show?
July 11th.
July 11th. Okay, great.
Yep.
Well,
and it will be here in Richmond. It'll be in the same place. So,
okay. Well, I'm going to guarantee that we will be hyping up your show here on the Refs Roundtable and getting as many people to fill up those seats as we can. I'm going to be there. As long as I'm in town, I will be there. And,
it's going to be. We already have that show booked, and there's going to be some surprises that night. That we're trying to hold true to the reason I said what our name is. We're trying to bring in the elite. We've got a great core group of people. We've got Sledge Gibson, Kevin Mears, Damian Wayne, who's our champion. Kevin Mears is our Continental champion. We just in February crowned our first women's champion in Jordan Blade, and then Simply Safish out of the Virginia Beach area are our tag team champions. So we've got a great core, and then in July there's going to be some new stuff coming in.
Awesome. Well, I know if you're involved in it, it's going to do things that people wouldn't necessarily expect, and it's going to be top notch. So
I appreciate that.
Yeah, man. One of the things is, there's a lot, like, we've known each other forever, and when we were first meeting each other in the throes of being assistant golf professionals, you meet a lot of people in the golf industry, and I always knew that if I ran into Chris Keith, I could count on you, and I'd always get a laugh, and always get a straight shot. So
I really thank you, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I always look forward to running into you, but I'm very much looking for. I was actually supposed to go to the show that was back in February, and I had work out of town, so I had to miss it. But I am very much looking forward to the return of UEW with your next event, and I just can't wait. So now you kind of touched on this a little bit, like what it's like being a young fan who maybe dreams about being a wrestler or owning a promotion or being a commentator or having a podcast, or like there's a lot of different ways you can be involved in wrestling.
Sure.
All right. But I want to go back even a step further. Like what was the thing? What are the earliest memories of wrestling? What are
Wow.
the things that like brought you and got you hooked on wrestling to the point where you said, "I'm going to make my life out of this"?
Man, honestly, memories are probably before I was 1 year old. My mom did a lot of work out of town when I was born, and my dad did construction. So the family, the Robinsons, who were my baby, and they had 8 kids in that family, all older than me. I can remember just your Jimmy Snukas, your Rock and Roll Express, even Bruiser. But it goes back to those guys. We would build makeshift rings with, I don't even remember what the ropes were ropes, and the turnbuckles that we would make were pillowcases stuffed with socks. and, and so perform our own matches. Now, keep in mind, all the kids that were doing this with me were significantly older than me. I was young. So when I was 5, 6 years old, I was the test dummy. So I'm taking suplex bumps. I'm taking, and back then you didn't have power bombs and you didn't have all this other stuff. So it was just your basic stuff. But we would remember being thrown to the ropes, but you couldn't actually had to run up to the rope, touch the rope, and then run back, because if you actually hit the ropes, the
Whole thing would fall.
wrestling has, before I can, if I'm being completely honest about it.
Chris, we're having some more audio issues with it just lagging up. Let's just try and keep going. But are you on Wi-Fi by chance?
No.
Do you have Wi-Fi that you could hook up to?
Bear with me here, sir.
Oh, yeah, no worries.
Got it.
Okay. Let's see if that helps.
Where are you? Here's me. There we go.
Okay. All right, let's give this a whirl. Let's go back. Just tell that story again about making the ring and having the matches as a kid.
Yeah, no, we would make, like I said, we would make makeshift rings out of, again, I couldn't tell you what the poles were, but it was 4 poles with just string. I don't even think that the ropes were thick enough to be called rope. It was more like shredded string that we would hang up, and then we would make our turnbuckles out of pillowcases stuffed with socks. And so, when we're out there, we're running ropes, but you couldn't actually run the ropes, because if you actually hit the rope, the whole thing is coming down and it screws the whole day up. So, the people that really ingrained wrestling into me had me out there, and I'm taking suplexes and body slams and all these things. And I'm probably 5, 6 years old when it started happening. And so, again, like I said earlier, wrestling has been in my blood since before I can honestly remember it. And like I said, that really is all due to the Robinson family.
I mean, hey, credit to them. That's awesome that they did you say they had 8 kids?
Yeah, they had five boys and 3 girls.
Oh my God! Were any of the girls involved in the wrestling matches?
No, they didn't really get into it, but I think 4 out of the 5 boys had me out there, and we were all just going. And it was pretty cool because that continued all the way through my high school years. We would just randomly throw up a ring in the yard and have a match.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so it was so cool. I miss doing that for sure. Probably not the safest thing in the world, so don't do this at home. But having done that for all those years, I would love to do that just one more time.
Yeah, as Chris said, don't try this at home. But if you do, make sure there's a video camera because we want to see it.
And make sure you send that in.
Yeah. All right. So you talked a little bit about setting up the ring and wrestling with the kids, and I think you mentioned Bruiser Brody, Jimmy Snuka, and Rock and Roll Express as some of your favorites growing up.
I could sit here and go on and on and on and on, but just when it became more mainstream, my guy, honestly, when I was 6, 7, 8 years old, was Hulk Hogan, man.
Oh yeah.
That was, because 1984, I was 7 years old.
Me too.
And that's when Hulkamania took hold of everything and just went wild. Yes.
What you gonna do, brother?
I love it. Hulk Hogan made an appearance on my show.
Hey, only the best for you, man.
But if we're talking memories, my mom and dad took me to Viking Hall down in Tennessee to see WWF back then. And, I can't remember everybody that was on that show because it was just blowing my mind. That was the first time I had seen a big show. High school shows, a lot of high school shows, and that's back when like NWA would come to town. And AKA John Unitas, back when he had the spiky blonde hair and the weird mustache thing going on. So it was that was always with Jim Cornette.
Yeah.
He would come to my high school a lot. So I'd seen all of that stuff. I'd seen all that. So mom and dad took me to Viking Hall, and this just happened to be the rookie year of one Ultimate Warrior. So got to see him his rookie year. I don't even think he had changed his name to Ultimate. I think he was still a Warrior at that point.
Okay.
But I remember he had the green, the white, and the blue face paint, trunks, and tassels. And my God, man, I wanted to be that guy. And then lo and behold, the main event came out, and it was Hogan versus Savage with Miss Elizabeth. Back literally in the heyday. Like, this is the heyday.
Oh.
And, I mean, just absolutely lost my mind.
Yeah.
So that is show that I ever saw, and I got to see those guys.
Wow.
But it's one of those things where you're like, damn, I need to this is what I want to do. Somehow, some way, at some point in my life, this is. I grew up in Marion, Virginia, which is a tiny, tiny little town, and there's not a whole lot, right? But got introduced to a couple guys who I don't remember the promotion. I remember one's name was Scott.
Okay.
These two guys had a tag team, but they were training guys. And I sat down, met with them at a Pizza Hut. Again, I was probably 18, 19 years old.
Yeah.
Conducting some business at a local Pizza Hut. Yeah, what could go wrong? And so I remember it being so awful. I wanted to do this so bad, but they were so awful at what they were telling me. I was like, you know what? Nah, I can't do it.
Yeah.
Can't do it. And so.
Were they trying to pitch you on them training you?
Well, that was the whole point of the meeting, was for them to train me. But they immediately started talking like gimmicks and doing this and doing that and doing that. And I'm like, I've never done this at this point. I've never been in an actual ring other than string, socks, and grass.
Yeah.
And so Yeah, so I was like,
It
yeah,
sounds like
you
these
know,
guys might have been operating out of a string, socks, and grass ring.
very possible, very possible. But I can remember that was the last time I ever saw those guys.
Okay.
So it was just, it would have been absolutely terrible had I done that. So there's a lot of guys out there that will dupe you for just try to get your money.
Oh, yeah.
And that's exactly what that was all about. I think they were going to charge me like $200 or $300 a month, which at that point I didn't have that.
Woo!
Yeah. And I was probably going to get out there and get killed or
Yeah.
hurt very badly.
Yeah.
So yeah, that didn't go down that time. I didn't go with it, and so it wasn't again until many years later that I actually was able to connect with it and get where I needed to be.
Well, we're all glad that you did. And, you know, I want to circle back here to something. So we talked about, you know, obviously UEW is your baby. And you talked about how the coronavirus is really having an impact on your shows and everything.
Yeah.
Can you talk about, like, you know, I would imagine, and this is a question kind of in the form of a statement in a way, but you know, I would imagine there's a lot of indie promotions out there that are, I mean, beyond struggling, but like either on life support or one foot in the grave right now. Like how bad is it that all these events across the country are getting canceled or postponed?
You know, honestly, I don't know how bad it is from that type of financial standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, as a promoter, you're largely just saving money now. Because you're not paying venue fees, you're not paying a payroll, doing things like that. I wish nothing more than that's exactly what we were doing come April 25th.
Yeah.
To get this thing back up and running, I would 100% gladly do it. But from that standpoint, from the company standpoint, you're not making money, but you're not losing money.
But like your advertising and stuff that you put into promoting the events.
Yeah. I mean, you know, a lot of people do it different ways, where we are dominantly on social media.
Oh, okay.
We're dominantly on social media. So what I have found through this year, almost a year of doing it, is Facebook typically is where you find your fans.
Mm-hmm.
Instagram hasn't really done much for us, but where you find the talent and the performers is on Twitter.
Oh,
so
okay.
So it's been pretty cool to learn that dynamic and see, you know, what was what. But largely, you know, Facebook has been our absolute biggest vehicle to this point.
Okay.
You know, so especially right now, we're going to have to just really bust it out on social media.
Okay.
You know, I don't think anybody, I honestly don't think if anybody was advertising, paying, I think if anybody was actually paying advertising dollars right now, I would see that as absolutely pointless.
Okay.
Because, I mean, nobody can get out to see it.
Yeah. Well, I guess the way I was thinking about this, and you know, you're the one that's doing this, so you're the expert, and I'm learning a lot. So, the other way I was thinking about this was like some of the performers that, you know, they probably have jobs outside of wrestling, and then now they can't work, or
it's those guys who are hurting through this the most.
Yeah.
It is. It's the performers who are hurting the most. Because, yeah, you're right. Everyone that I personally know has another job. You know, they have a day job, so to speak. But right now, you know, they may or may not be working that day job either.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the money that these people invest in themselves, T-shirts, stickers, buttons, you know, 8x10 glossy photos for autographs, whatever it may be. I mean, they put, you know, they dump a lot of money into this stuff.
Yeah.
And so now they can't get anywhere to recoup it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that sucks. That sucks, you know. Just because there's nothing like me or any other promoter, any other, you know, company, there's nothing we can do about it right now.
Yeah. Well, a couple of things that I wanted to talk about. Last week when I had Levi on the show, Levi McDaniel's an indie performer out in Iowa, and he was talking to me about, or we were talking together, and he was basically saying that, you know, like right now all these performers are not working, which makes obvious sense, but one of the questions that I posed to him that I'll pose to you is it hard getting the events rescheduled right now? Like, are you tentatively booked, or are you like, I would imagine the competition for dates at certain venues gets pretty.
Well, for me, again, I'm a planner. I've got the venue booked for the whole year. I've got every date. Yeah, I've got every date that I already had planned already booked with the venue.
So you're just shifting your storyline.
Yeah.
Basically just shifting it out. Okay.
Yeah. So for us, it's going to be an easier transition because we don't have to go find a new venue. It was already booked on that day. I've had this booked since probably February.
Oh, okay.
For, you know, we had the April show, then we were July, then we're September, then we're November, and then we're going to do a charity show in December. But like I said, for all of that, I already have the venue booked.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have to worry about that. You know, if you can see, and here I've got my big whiteboard that I'm scribbling, you know, ideas on, and I've still got my April matches that are up on there right now. So what it really didn't mess up, but like you said, I've got to shift some things from April to July, and it gave me a chance. It's kind of like, you know, when you're at a restaurant and they give you the menu and you have way too long to look at it.
You start second guessing.
Change your mind about 100 times. It gave me a chance to change some things that we were going to do in April that are actually going to be better for it.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, you know, I'm in my think tank right now.
Well, good. Well, don't hurt yourself. I mean, we need you.
It may happen.
Well, so one of the things Levi talked about was he's spending a lot of this time right now just working out, trying to get his body healthy and get it ready for the return of wrestling. And I'm sure a lot of your guys are doing that too, guys and girls. But one of the questions that just popped into my head when we were talking last week was, do you think that there will be some sort of outlaw promotions, like bootleg under the table in the middle of a field somewhere in like tap a hand, like beyond the beaten path? Like, do you see the possibility of like a speakeasy wrestling event somewhere, during these times of quarantine?
I would not doubt it. I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, if you look at the quarantine situation and the amount of people who have largely disregarded this entire thing anyway, then sure. I think somewhere along the line, it's probably already happened somewhere. I can see that being a very possible scenario. Kind of one of those take your life into your own hands kind of things, but swim at your own risk. I don't know that you would see any around Virginia or around here.
Well, that's where you're wrong, Chris Keith, because Mad Mike's Night of Wrestling is coming next Thursday, and everybody that buys a ticket, it's $20 to get in at the door. Everybody that buys a ticket gets a mask, and you come in. We will be Lysol wiping the ring, and everybody will have a good time. So come on out.
You know what? I think I'm doing my hair that night.
Okay.
I think I'm busy. I gotta trim the beard up or something. I got something going on.
Okay, maybe next time. But this whole thing is so it's having an impact, obviously, on a lot of really important and I don't know how to say it, but it's like wrestling is important, right? But it's not life or death. It's impacting everything in the world, and I just hope that things get a little bit more back to normal now. Do you think you would ever consider doing a something that a lot of musicians are doing, where maybe you videotape a match and just put it out on the internet, or have like a Facebook Live match with two people or something like that, just to hold people over?
Yeah, I mean, we could do that. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to anything like that. But, with social distancing, I don't know how much, body slamming a guy or grabbing a guy for a belly to belly with your face to face, pretty much. Not sure how safe that is. But what we've started doing, and we're set to release another one tomorrow, is we're releasing all of our matches one at a time.
Oh, wow.
On our Facebook page, on the United Elite Wrestling Facebook page. So if you go there now, you can watch the main event from Boiling Point, which was Damian Wayne. It was Rock Richards versus Sledge Gibson for Damian Wayne's UEW Heavyweight Championship.
Awesome.
So that's actually out there to be seen right now.
As soon as we hang up, I'm going to check it out.
Good deal, man. I expect you to tell me what you think.
Oh, you better believe it. All right, so let's kind of transition here. We talked about what it's like in the indie world, UEW. We're talking more about this over the weeks to come, but I'm really excited to see what happens for your promotion and everybody that's involved with it. So that being said, why don't we transition over to some of the other federations out there, like WWE.
Oh, yeah, those guys.
Yeah, those guys. Yeah. It's just the largest company in the world for wrestling.
And then, some guy made a couple good moves once upon a time, and they turned out to be really good ideas. And
you know what? I heard that the first business meetings that they had were at a Pizza Hut, believe it or not. So,
yeah.
So
I don't believe that at all. With a big pitcher of beer too, right?
Probably. Well, Chris, let's talk about WWE. Did you get a chance to watch Raw last week?
Yeah,
or this week?
Probably the last week and a half is the least amount of WWE wrestling that I've watched at all. I've just can't get my head wrapped around it. But here's one thing. I mean, you see it all the time on social media. Yeah, they're doing empty arena shows at the Performance Center. I get it. I mean, AEW's doing it because they have to do it.
Yeah.
What drives me absolutely nuts are the amount of people who absolutely rip these guys apart for what they think is not necessarily a good show.
Mm-hmm.
The way I think we need to look at it is they're still making every effort, whether it be money motivated or whatever on their end. They're still making every effort to have programming on Monday nights, Wednesday nights, Friday nights, and they're still making an incredible effort for WrestleMania. Now, am I as excited for WrestleMania this year as normal? No. But am I going to watch it? Absolutely. I'm going to be right in front of the TV.
Chris, you brought up some really good points. And, as far as the programming is concerned, as some conversations that I've had, obviously WWE, they've kind of they painted themselves in a corner, so to speak. They have 7 hours or so to fill up every freaking week. And then you throw in pay-per-views on top of that, and the backstage and the other WWE network programming. Like, it's immense, the workload that is required every week. Right. The issues that they're dealing with, I mean, I personally, I'm kind of like you. Like, the last couple weeks have been hard to watch WWE programming. And part of it is, okay, they're trying to fill up all this time, so they're showing old matches, which, I mean, it's okay, but they're showing matches that are 30 minutes long, 45. I mean, it's like, come on, there's got to be somebody in the back who can do something as opposed to just showing Cena versus I don't know who. Or I saw Triple H and so I don't even know now. Like they're just showing all these.
Just a week or so ago that they showed the entire Royal Rumble all over again.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I think that night it took up an hour and a half, counting commercials. It took up the first hour and a half, or maybe even more.
Yeah.
And I don't mind sitting and watching old matches. Maybe pull something from a little deeper in the network. Don't show us the Royal Rumble that just happened.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I go back to what I said. At least they're making the effort.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that, because there's a lot of folks out there in all walks of life that are focusing on the negatives and not as much on the positives. So good for you for reminding us that we should be thankful for them doing what they are doing. I know this is going to come as a shock to you, Chris, but in the wrestling world, there are these people out there that they make their opinions known. Okay, and these fans out there,
I'll keep an eye out.
Yeah, I mean, if you look really hard, you could probably dig a couple up. And from what I'm understanding, they're not very happy with what's going on, and it's one of these things. Like, on the one hand, WWE has so much programming to fill, and we're going to talk about AEW in a minute, but with only a couple of hours to fill, they are definitely in the driver's seat in this whole wrestling on TV game right now.
Yeah. I mean, just maybe from a, like you were saying, maybe more from a content standpoint, yeah.
I mean, they get to focus on quality more than quantity right now.
Yeah, but I mean, and I was saying this long before this all ever happened about AEW, honestly. Like, their shows, since they've gone to empty arena shows, has actually gotten better. I think there were, when AEW first came on TNT, not so much their pay-per-views. Those were on point. But I felt like when they came on TNT weekly, I felt like a lot of the performers were just trying way, way too hard.
Okay.
And you could go back through just about any match and find some really, really big botches.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really, and it's not from a talent standpoint. All those guys and women are talented, but there were, every week I would watch and something big would get screwed up in at least 3 matches.
Well, it's funny when we talk about AEW in a few minutes, we'll talk about this, but like, I saw a big botch this week in AEW, and I think it's the flip of what you're saying. Without the crowd there to pan to in the event that something does go wrong, it's all out there. Like, they're all they're showing is the ring, and so it's magnified if anything goes wrong.
Well, and I think that's one thing that WWE did better. Like I said, I might have had it on briefly. But when they first started doing their performance center shows,
mm-hmm.
they openly would show all the empty seats and all these things, and they were showing too much of the arena, I thought.
Absolutely.
And so now that they've kind of drawn it into the ring, okay, all right, I can get on board with that. I like that better.
Absolutely. Like it was abysmal watching that whole, seeing 50 rows of empty seats or 30 rows of empty seats. Like, it was
that first SmackDown where Triple H did the commentary. That was funny. That was really good. But what I don't want to see is all of these open, empty seats.
Yeah. Give us the illusion.
It was taking away from it for me.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I think dialing it in and only showing the ring, and you know what? They got that from AEW, because that first empty house show that AEW did, I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong, but it looked like that was on top of the football stadium in Jacksonville.
Oh, I don't know.
It's what it looked like.
insider information possibly from Chris Keith. This is great.
It's just from what I saw. So anybody else could have seen it. Nothing that I know, but that's what it looked like. But yeah, so, them focusing with the dark, seats, and it was pretty cool. They had MJF out there.
Yeah.
They were gambling a little bit. That was funny. And you know what it did? It gave a little bit of crowd noise.
Absolutely. And so this is the interesting thing. So WWE, I think, is trying to react. And they've like you said, they've tightened their focus on just the ring now, pretty much. Excuse me. But they can't do that now. They can't have heels on one side, faces on the other, and have a crowd, because then they'd just be copying AEW.
Yeah, and I'm okay with them not having anybody out there. I'm okay with that.
Absolutely.
But like I said, they definitely, I feel like they pulled that camera shot from AEW for sure.
Yeah, I think they did the best modification that they could without being a ripoff of what AEW is doing. So, all right. So WWE Raw, it was they showed a classic match or two. Really, I was actually on the phone with Angelo from Wrestling with the Future podcast through most of the night. So, to be honest, like, nothing was really notable, and it was just an episode of Raw that was a little bit better. I'll say, like, if the week before was like a C or a D, I would give this week's episode of Raw probably a C or B minus. Again, they're making the effort, but I feel like they could tweak a few more things just to really kind of make it get hooks in people.
Yeah, and maybe they're trying not to, because Mania is coming up. Maybe they're trying just not to show all the tricks right now.
Well,
I don't know what they're going to do for Mania.
Well, we know that it's going to be 2 nights.
Yeah.
Saturday and Sunday. I've just learned this week, and it's not a spoiler or anything because it'll be on the card, but they updated the Goldberg match because Roman Reigns is out due to concern over his compromise.
I mean, if anybody, he's definitely immunocompromised.
Yeah, I would say that's a smart move to hold him out, whether he asked for it or the doctors did. But so we learned. Are you aware who is fighting Goldberg?
No, like I said, I had intended to watch Friday, but got sidetracked. So
yeah. So the big news is that Goldberg is he's gonna lace up the old boots. And, it's pretty crazy. Number one, that they would put the strap on Goldberg. It's kind of the WrestleMania thing to have some big name come back, but it's still not sitting well.
It was just weird how it happened. Yeah. And, I didn't agree with it. I didn't like it. But at the same time, there's always a reason. There's always a reason for why these companies do something.
Oh, absolutely. I'm sorry. I blanked for a second here. So the replacement for Roman Reigns is actually Braun Strowman. So could this be Braun Strowman's chance to get the title?
I don't know, because I would have been down for like an Aleister Black.
Oh my God.
I would have been down for something I feel like this is would have been an opportunity to really rethink it. And hey, do we all remember the Matt Riddle rivalry with Goldberg? Social media. So I felt like, oh man, I just don't know that. I can't get excited about Braun. I like Braun Strowman, but I can't get excited about that.
You know what? Honestly, I feel like Braun Strowman, and from what I heard, from what the ref used to tell me, Braun Strowman kind of shot himself in the foot a few times and pissed some people off behind the scenes.
Yep.
But I only for this reason, I would love to see Braun Strowman win. It's because he's there every week, and I'm tired of the Brock Lesnar's, the Goldbergs, the whoever you want to put it on that wants to come around once every blue moon.
Yeah, I mean, I think Booker T said it best one time when all these, and I am on board with the whole part-timer thing. I'm with you and what you're saying. Booker T one time said it, once these guys start putting as many asses in seats as Brock Lesnar does, then he'll go away.
I mean, that's fair. I don't think he needs to go away, but does he need to hold the belt hostage is my point.
I would go with no. But
I mean, as a wrestling fan, that's one of the big draws is seeing who is going to be contending for and competing for the title.
I agree.
And like, how many times did you see Ric Flair on TV? He was a champion, and he was on TV every freaking week.
Yeah,
Sting,
all the time.
All those guys.
Even Hogan.
Hogan, yeah.
Even Hogan. Hogan was pretty well phasing out when it came time for Monday Night Raw.
Mm-hmm.
That was right around the WCW transition. So
yes,
he wasn't really around to make that title prominent on television, but he made it prominent in WCW.
Absolutely.
With the NWO.
Oh yeah, so, absolutely. Well, I mean, it's one of those things. It'll be really interesting to see how things pan out. Hopefully this week's Raw, and I imagine they're still going to do. I think they had already recorded Raw and SmackDown.
Yeah.
So
aren't they doing Mania like Monday, Wednesday, or something like that?
No, Mania is Saturday, Sunday.
No, I mean they're recording it.
Oh, I think they may have recorded it this week.
That may have been one of us. I had seen the dates at one point. I just don't remember what they are.
It's either they recorded it this week or they're recording it. I mean, this past week or this week coming up. Yeah. One of the two. Yeah. So, all right. So WWE, not any real big changes, other than what we know about Goldberg and now Braun Strowman at WrestleMania, and I believe they've added some matches. I'm going to have the full card before we do our pick'em, and I'll send that out to everybody so that you can have a chance to make your predictions. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes tomorrow night on Raw. Hopefully they put together like a super smoking show so that it just kind of because like this is the biggest wrestling event of the year every year. And one of the things that I brought up last week that I'd like to get your thoughts on, all right, there's advertiser money, there's ticket money, there's all kinds of money associated with wrestling events and wrestling on TV. And throw into the fact that Raw is the longest running episodic TV show in television history, and WrestleMania is the biggest wrestling event of the year. Like WWE has a lot of pressure to keep these things going one way or the other. And, if we can just get through Mania, I think they'll be okay. Because like all that pressure is going to go away, and then get back to just kind of stay in the course until we're able to get fans back in the arenas and have our events as we've become accustomed to seeing.
Yeah, I think there was never a good time for this virus to hit and take hold, but from a wrestling standpoint, it could not have been worse.
Absolutely.
Could not have been worse timing.
Very well said, sir. Very well said. So, all right. Talked about WWE. Let's talk about AEW. Man, I'll tell you what. I was a fan of AEW, but I have become way more of a fan the past few weeks.
Yeah.
Last week, we had Brody Lee showing up. We had Matt Hardy showing up. We had, you know, the much better handling of the empty arenas. Like, as you said, MJF gambling in the crowd, heels on one side, faces on the other. And I got to be honest, the highlight of it for me is Y2J, Chris Jericho. His commentary last week was some of the best I've heard.
Well, Jericho's the man. He's one of the greatest to ever do this. And God, you know,
And even that might give
how many decades he's been able to adapt to, change his style, and stay relevant. I mean, Jericho is, I think, in ring, out of ring, he's got to be in anybody's top 3 of all time.
Wow. That's what I think. You're looking total package. You know,
if you just go straight everything.
Yeah.
He's got to be in every top 3.
There's a lot of performers who are good at one thing or two things, but not everything.
Yeah,
and
I think he's good at everything.
I'll tell you what, the thing that was, I can't get over this. Him saying that Arn Anderson was carrying a Waffle House menu to the ring was the funniest thing I had seen on wrestling in a long time.
Yeah. Well, and Jericho, just being in AEW, he's got free reign to just say what he wants.
Oh, yeah.
Which makes it cool. You know, the things he says there, he couldn't say on a Monday night or a Friday night.
Yeah, I mean.
Maybe Friday, but not Monday. Not on USA.
Well, I will say this. AEW is doing a great job. And so this past week, we had Brody Lee in his first match. It was kind of it was a decent match, but it's just kind of get him in the ring and let him do some stuff.
It's been a while.
I should ask this. Did you watch AEW this week?
I did not. Like I said, this was probably the first week in God knows how long that I didn't really take in any wrestling. Okay.
So MJF was still around. It seemed like they had a lot less of the wrestlers out at the ring this time, though. I don't know what the deal was, but they had like a back room where the guys were gambling. And then the stuff was going on in the ring and everything was good. But it was weird. Like, I thought that faces and heels separation was really cool. But for whatever reason, I didn't see as much of that this week.
Not so much this week.
Not so much. But did you catch last week how they, like when they are introducing the wrestlers, they come down the ramp, they'll put their name across the bottom of the screen? Well, there was Hangman Adam Page. They called him hand wash Adam Page. Like,
oh my Lord, that's funny.
That is the kind of thing that is gonna just win me over every time.
Yeah, little witty banter and sarcasm.
Yeah, and it's like something WWE just can't do.
Right.
Vince would never allow that. So
no. Well, and it's not even so much Vince; it's the network now. USA has one thing, and I think as we go, when things get back to normal, I think Fox, they'll have a lot more wiggle room and a lot more leeway on Fridays than they do on Monday. Because I think Fox wants an edgier, kind of more, not attitude era, but just a little edgier. If you listen to the way they speak to each other on Friday, immediately after watching a Monday show, you can see it. It's different.
Sure. Well, it's kind of interesting though that the cable network is more tame than the, major the non-cable network.
It is kind of interesting, that's for sure.
So, we had Matt Hardy come to the ring this week. He did this weird thing where he was like teleporting in the stands to different.
There's a lot of weird things.
Yes, and I love it. I was very vocal with Jeff the Ref and Angelo and Levi. I was really hoping he would retire from in-ring action. Just hoping that his body could just be
he's in better shape now than he has been in a lot of years.
But still, he did a lot of damage during those years.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And so, like, I was hoping, and maybe this is part of his ride off into the sunset. Who knows? But he had a match this week. Cody had a match. Cody's match was really good. I'm trying to remember who he wrestled, but it was a great match. And then, really the big thing was Y2J trying to get Vanguard 1 to come to the inner circle. And it was just, it was funny. But I don't know, man. Like, I hadn't been watching AEW every week, so I'm kind of getting caught up on some of these storylines that I had gaps in.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what. Oh, by the way, do you know who Penelope Ford is?
Yes.
She used to wrestle in Virginia for some of the indies. Did you ever go see her up in like Nova Pro or any of the other promotions?
I don't think that I ever saw her live, no.
Oh, okay. I saw her a couple times up in Northern Virginia, and it's just cool seeing her on AEW. But
that's cool.
Anyway, we're kind of, blabbering a little bit here just to say, let's try and watch Raw and SmackDown this week in AEW and see what we can come up with for next week. But overall, I still think AEW did a great job. I'd give them an A for the week.
Okay. All right.
If this was a normal week and that show had been on, I probably would have given them a B. But they did a lot of good stuff. I'm trying to remember. I believe it was the Cody Rhodes match, and he was he wasn't fighting Darby. He was fighting. Gosh, I can't remember the guy's name. But in any case, his match, there was a big botch in it where guy was supposed to come into the corner and I don't know if he was just supposed to like clothesline him in the corner or do something. But he almost had to go like this to get the guy to
come on, get over here.
Yeah. But, I loved it. I thought it was great. And we'll just see what happens.
Go back. I've got it all recorded. I just need to go back and watch it.
Yeah, I think you'll enjoy this week's AEW.
I will check that out on your recommendation, sir.
Oh man, that's great. I'm glad I could have a little influence there. Well, all right. So Chris, we've had a nice talk here. One of the traditions we have on the Refs Roundtable is we normally, Jeff the ref, we would talk about a memory, because I've known Jeff since I was about 7-8 years old, maybe even before that. And he and I used to reenact matches back in the day, and we would record we had a little tape recorder, and we would tape record each other giving interviews, and one of us would be like Ric Flair, and the other one would be Sting or whoever. It didn't matter. Even if they were in different promotions, it didn't matter. We were just having a good time. But so we usually have a memory of our past. And so the memory I'm going to bring to the discussion right now, and there may not be a whole lot to talk about, but it just speaks to Jeff and who he was, because when I approached you a couple weeks ago about coming on the roundtable, I was speaking from a place where I assumed that you didn't know who Jeff was. And I believe my words were, man, if you'd only gotten the chance to meet Jeff, the ref, nobody knew more about wrestling than Jeff. And I think you would have really enjoyed speaking with him. And he was head of security for VCW, a promotion that I know you're familiar with. But as you let me know, you did know Jeff, because everybody knew Jeff.
Right.
So, you said you didn't really have too much interaction with him, but, if you want to say anything, that's cool. If not, that's fine too. But what are do you have any memories of Jeff when you talked with him?
Yeah, I guess I really don't have a lot like a lot of people do, but, I've gone to, especially over the last year plus, a lot of VCW shows. And so what I can say about Jeff would be that every time I saw him, you could tell he was loving what he was doing. You could tell he just loved being in the arena wherever they were.
Oh yeah.
And like I said, my conversations were more of the, hey, how's it going? Ready for the show? Absolutely. Okay, man, I'll see you later. But he was always personable. He was always nice. But like I said, you could just always tell that he was 100% invested in all about what he was there to do.
Well, let me tell you something, Chris. Jeff, he had some health issues that he wouldn't a lot of times be able to go out and do a lot. Okay. But I guarantee you this, if there was a VCW show, or if SmackDown came or Raw came, he was going to be there. It didn't matter how he felt. He was going to be there.
He's going.
And there are so many people that I've met now that were just fans coming to the arena. They all met Jeff, and they could, just like you, they could tell that he was loving what he was doing, and this is what he lived for, really. I mean, it was the highlight of his week or month when he got to go out there and interact with people at the events, and just to say that it's insane. Like, you could do 6 degrees of separation with Kevin Bacon. I think we can get down to 5 with Jeff, the ref.
I think so. You're probably right there.
Well, Chris, this has been awesome, man. I really appreciate you taking your time to chat with me today and coming on the Refs Roundtable. And, we are on the road to Refamania, okay? That's what we're calling this, the road to Refamania. And as part of that, we're going to be doing a preview show next week. And I would love to invite you on the show to be part of the festivities, which include going down the card. Everybody picks their winner of the matches, and then we see who comes out on top.
I'm 100% in.
All right, dude. Well, get ready. I'm gonna send out the card so everybody can go ahead. The rules are you have to call your matches and write them down, who you think is going to win.
Yeah.
And we're going to hold up our picks and read them so that there's no last minute switching or anything.
Sounds good to me, man.
So, all right, brother. Well, this has been fascinating. I really appreciate it, and I'll look forward to checking in with you next week. Do you have anything else do you have any social media or anything you want to plug?
Just if people want to really follow what we're doing, like I said early on, Facebook is kind of the hotbed for where we're posting everything. So, look up United Elite Wrestling on Facebook and you'll find us. We're on Twitter. It's at United Elite WRE1.
Okay.
And so those are our 2 main platforms right there right now.
Awesome. Well, like I said, after we hang up, I'm going on to Facebook and I'm watching the Sledge Gibson match, who I've been messaging with him back and forth, and so it's really cool to get to meet him a little bit.
Yeah.
So everybody, please check out UEW. Chris Keith and his guys and gals, they're doing a great job and bringing back wrestling to Richmond, Virginia, which, other than like Richmond Lucha Libre, which has been gone for a number of years, I don't know of any other promotions in Richmond.
We're working on it, man. We're working on it.
Well, we appreciate it. I'm Mad Mike. You can find me on Instagram at MK333 or Hi-Fi Mike RVA, and you can see me on TV if you watch PBS. A little TV show called Legacy List with Matt Paxton. It's a show where we go around telling family story through the items we find in their house. So please check it out. Let me know what you think. We're hoping to be filming again for season 2 here real soon. But anyway, that's all we've got for this week. We really appreciate everybody's support. And Chris, I can't thank you enough, brother.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Well, until next week, everybody be safe, Wash your hands, stay away from people, and stay home. All right. See you, Chris.
See you guys.